how we might perceive each other differently. Whose first time is it at the assembly? Put your hand up. Okay, give everyone a high five. Give everyone a high five. Thank you for coming. Okay, so coming up today, I'm going to tell you a bit about what the Sunday Assembly is. Then we're going to have some poems again, and Abby's going to tell us about how she's been doing her best. We're going to have a song, and then we're going to have a talk by Heidi Renton from the BBFC. We're going to have announcements, a collection, some final words, a moment of reflection, and then our final song, which will be Changes. So, what is the Sunday Assembly? We're a secular congregation that gets together once a month to celebrate life, although we do a bit more on the side too, which you'll find out about later. And at least you know you're not dead if you're clapping. We have a vision, which is to help everyone live life as fully as possible, and we have a motto, which I'd like you to help me with. Live better. Help often. Wonder more. Thank you. Each assembly is themed, and as you know, today's theme is age. How we react to a person based on their age can be as varied and unjust as the mistakes we so often make in respect to things such as gender, race, or culture. For example, I have often felt talked down to by someone older than me because they assume that they have more knowledge on the subject. And the other way round, when I was younger and someone told me their age, I would have been very likely to exclaim, "Wow, you're so old!" much to their delight. How we perceive our own age may also affect how we see others' ages. When a child is amazed about someone's age, it is because they're so early in their own lives that they can't imagine someone having lived such a long in comparison to them time. When someone older sees a young person on the other end of the scale, they may feel inclined to patronize them because they have lived so many more years than the child and can only see the child as having lived incredibly few. It's always hard to appreciate what is important to people at different times in their lives, and it's easy to trivialize those lifestyle choices. Now I'm going to recap on some of the lifestyle choices that I have made throughout my 16 years, focusing on the earlier ones. This memory, I've titled in my notes, The Door Episode. And it's one of my earliest memories, and it's burned into my memory. What happened was that my family were all sitting in the kitchen, round the table, when we realised that the kitchen door had been left open, and so all the cold drafts from the hallway were coming into the kitchen and making us chilly. My dad got up and closed the door, as you do. I immediately became hysterical. I wanted to close the door, and I felt as though all my dreams had been crushed, and I still feel that way to this day. Dad opened the door again, saying that I could close it if I wanted to, but this wasn't the same. I didn't just want to close the door for the sake of it. I wanted to be that person to save my family from the terrible cold winds of the corridor. I can still go back and relive the anger and immense upset I felt in that moment. And this story really shows how some things can appear incredibly trivial to an adult, but absolutely terribly deadly important to a 3-year-old. Another tale from my childhood which shows how different young children and adults think is the following. I had my good friend Lauren round to play, and we were desperate to play hide and seek with my dad. He agreed and so went to hide, and we went to find him. Of course, he was a much better hider than we were finders, and so after a while of half-hearted looking, we forgot what we were even supposed to be doing and went to play in my room. Dad was still hiding in the airing cupboard. After a while, no doubt constructing a new game, Lauren walked onto the landing and toward the cupboard. Suddenly, an enormous monster then leapt out at her for no apparent reason and transformed her into a screaming, gibbering wreck on the floor as my dad tried unsuccessfully to calm her. This shows us that how you should construct a game for a 5-year-old can be very different to how you should construct a game for an older one, keeping in mind the incredibly short attention span and little memory that a very young child has. One of the most heartbreaking memories from my childhood is one started, as always, by a lie from my dad. He's Stephen, he's right here if you want to go like beat him up later. We live on the same road as BBC Berkshire, and when you walk past its huge gates and fences, you can just about see fields stretching into the distance. My dad told me that that was where the Teletubbies lived. He claims that he didn't think I would have believed something like that, but but I did, because it clearly says BBC on the sign by the radio station, and it also says BBC on the screen before every episode of the Teletubbies. When I finally got to enter those gates, I found no Teletubbies, and was informed that they didn't even exist anywhere at all, let alone on my road. And what to take from this story is that you need to be careful about what you tell children about what is real and what is fake. To a young child, it can be incredibly confusing living in a world where you aren't quite sure what is true and what isn't. A world where Teletubbies play in the fields just around the corner, and where gremlins await you in the dark emptiness every night. Thanks, Dad. I can remember a conversation with my little sister where she asked, "Are dragons real?" "No." And then, "Are lions real?" Thank you, Ben. Okay, as Bowie said, pretty soon now you're going to get older. Depending where you are in your life, that might be good news or bad news. What makes age a more difficult attribute of a person to account for is that there are many situations where their age does have a bearing on how they perceive the world and how they perceive themselves. To know when you're being helpful rather than patronising is a difficult skill, and to appreciate that someone is trying to care rather than treat you as a caricature of your age can be equally hard to accept. The young don't like being told what they can and cannot do, and all parents will have to deal with the screaming little red-faced gremlin that all toddlers will periodically transform into. But of course, considering that they won't have a fully grown brain until the age of 13, how can we expect them to fully understand the world? Next is the infamous teenager. They are forced to look away from childhood and toward the looming adult responsibilities in an adult world where they don't quite fit yet. But bearing in mind that their brains are undergoing extensive rewiring and pruning, how can you expect them to fully understand the world? Now on to those in their early 20s. Their brains have by now matured into brilliant working machines, but devoid of much information which they have yet to learn. So how can you expect them to understand the world? From about 25 is when you define your career, attempt to find the love of your life, start a family, spend lots of money on a house, while watching your friends creeping past you in their achievements. However, you're just as fit as you'll ever be, and the rewards of this hectic life are just around the corner. But bearing in mind that at this age your brain starts to decline in respect to learning and memory, how can you expect them to understand the world? In the 40s and 50s is when your career direction is set or has stagnated, and is suddenly up for comparison against your expectations and dreams of your younger self. Your body begins to fail you, and these can become the saddest years of your life. Although middle-aged people are the least likely to discount unwanted information, and so become the least susceptible to cognitive bias, their brains have deteriorated by about 4% in the last 10 years. So how can we expect them to understand the world? By 60, memories become more positive, and they become more satisfied with the here and now. With their advancing brain decline and blind optimism, how can we really expect them to understand the world? In the 70s and onwards, as long as your health holds out and your friends don't depart, these can be some of the happiest years. But bearing in mind that the 17-year-olds are living in the world of their youth, how can they possibly be expected to understand the world? The point is that whatever age you're at, you won't ever fully understand the world. Perhaps what we should take away from this assembly is an idea to think about everyone's different perceptions of the world and try to think about what we can take from these. Just because we have different perceptions doesn't mean that any one of us is necessarily wrong. When you go out into the world after this, remember to try not to assume that because someone is in a particular age category that they abide by the stereotypes that we might have about the group. Even if they do abide by these, that does not make them any less worth your time. We all have things we can learn from each other. The only way to understand a person and how their mind works is to talk to them. Wherever you are on the journey of life, it is better if you can hear the voices of the other travellers. Now it is the time for the moment of reflection. It's time for you to think about anything you want, nothing at all, or if you'd like something to think about, how about thinking about what your younger self would think of who you are now, and perhaps what you now would think of your younger self.
See you next month.
Well, I was going to say that.
Say it. Like the door.
Well, I was going like to say. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for coming along today.
Music off, please.
Typical. Please stay for tea and cakes and a chat, and I'm going to leave you with this quote from Changes, taken from the movie The Breakfast Club. Thank you, everyone.
Wishes